today we're using the pinch pot technique to make sculptures. So I have already wedged up 2 chunks of clay. They are 1¼ pounds each. And these 2 pieces will become the body of a pig. Flat on the bottom, round on the top. And then a smaller one under a pound for the head. I've used the pinch pot technique to already turn one of the wedged original 1½ pounds of clay into a pinch pot, and now I'm going to make the other one into a pinch pot. So I'm going to start from the flat end, and I'm going in symmetrically into the middle with my thumbs. I'm holding it in my hand and rotating. And so the goal is to make this pinch pot the same size and dimensions as the first one that I already worked on. So I'm rotating and opening up through the bottom and pinching the clay into the wall. And I'm rotating it to make it as symmetrical as possible. I also want to make sure that my clay is an even thickness all the way around. That's really important for drying purposes. Also, so that when it goes in the kiln, I don't have any really heavy areas that might have trapped a lot of moisture, and those in the kiln can create steam. The steam is what causes pieces to explode in the kiln. Contrary to popular thought, it's not really like a trapped bubble that causes the explosion. It's a hollow void that has steam building up inside of it, and when water gets to boiling, which is 220 degrees Fahrenheit, it starts to boil, it turns into steam, and it will explode in the kiln. And the sound of that happening is more like a slow hiss inside the kiln than a boom. Part of the reason we bisque our clay first before we apply glazes, and some people do, some countries where they have gotten really efficient at producing large functional objects. Parts of China, for example, they don't bisque and then glaze in separate firings. They do it all at once. And but here, because we're using electric kilns and we're in a group setting, we bisque first and then we glaze second. Most places do this, although you technically can apply glaze to dry clay when it's bone dry. Because if you were to put a glazed object into the kiln and it hadn't already been bisque fired, if any part of that were to explode with glaze on it, you're going to end up with shards of glass on the interior of your kiln, and it's going to basically destroy your kiln. So that's why it's very, very crucial to let all your projects get really, really dry. Bone dry is what we call it. And then we put it in the kiln for the first firing. The first firing is called our bisque firing. Okay, so now I have 2 pinch pots, and they are roughly the same size, and put together they will become the body. And so I'm going to take my scoring tool and I'm going to score. You'll notice I left these edges flat so that they attach well. I'm going to score using using a cross-hatching technique. Okay? I'm going to score both of them. And because I'm doing this in a video, I am not going to spend excessive amounts of time smoothing all my clay and making it perfect. And then I'm brushing in slip, okay? I'm gonna set it upside down on this sponge because I don't want to put it flat on the table where the weight of the clay could possibly change the shape of my pinch pot. All right, now I'm going to apply slip to the second piece. All right, grabbing a sponge for my second pinch pot. Yeah. And I'm gonna let the slip get tacky so that they don't slide around. In the meantime, I'm gonna work on the head. So this is I'm gonna start with the flat end. And again, I'm going in with my thumbs together. Pinching around. So because I'm making a pig, I am going to incorporate the snout into the head. So I'm gonna go for more of an oblong shape. Depending on the kind of animal you might want to make, you would adjust the shape of your pinch pot to reflect whatever body, say a sheep or a cow, a horse. You know, you can consider the shape of that animal and then be careful in thinking about how to make the shape of your pinch pot to reflect what that body's characteristics are. So for example, let's say you were really adventurous and you want to make a camel, you know, you would think about the hump, and perhaps you would make 2 smaller pinch pots and attach them. Okay, so I'm letting the slip get tacky and I'm working on my head. I'm always monitoring that I don't make a hole there. That's really important. If I inadvertently push too much into that direction, I could, and I don't need to because I'm doing this okay so far, but I could take a little ball of clay, and I'll just show you the technique. I could just kind of smooth it into that bottom and reinforce that area if it was getting too thin, and I can do that on any section if I need to. Okay, so when I think about a pig and I think about its snout, I'm going to think about making one end of it kind of flat, where I'm going to put the nostrils. So you can see that this pinch pot is turning a little bit more oblong than my body pieces. And so some things I'll also think about are, what kind of texture do I want my animal to have? Does it have fur? You know, even pigs have like kind of coarse fur. So I might think about how I want to apply that texture. I typically do texture at the end. I like to do texture when my clay is leather hard. Clay goes through stages of moisture levels. And so right now it's in what we call, lots of cheese metaphors, we call this the soft kind of cheese stage. So it's going to be very malleable, easy to work with. And then as the water starts to evaporate, it gets firmer. So right now it's like a very soft, very soft Gouda. It's going to start to turn into a cheddar. Leather hard is a stage where it's easy to carve and do more aggressive texture without deforming the shape. So leather hard is going to be like a Parmesan. And at leather hard is when I would probably apply texture to my pig. Okay, so I'm thinking through the snout here, and I'm going to make one end kind of flat. So I'm kind of flattening out one end, and I'm flattening it a little bit at an angle. I'm going to make 2 holes for the nostrils. I'm just going to use a needle tool, but there are lots of various kinds of modeling tools that you could use for this part. Alright, So I'm going to mark off where my nostrils are. I'm not going to belabor this detail right now because I'm filming this for you all. Okay, but I would probably spend quite a bit more time just measuring, marking out where I wanted those to be and making them precise and interesting. Okay. So the benefit of the nostril too is that I can use it as a way to open up a hole into the cavity of the pig. All right, so here's my head. I'm going to attach my body together. And now it's so humid in here. My slipped edges aren't quite as tacky as I would like. So I'm just smoothing out the body a little bit more. I am going to reinforce the joint with a coil. So I'm going to grab that coil. I pre-made it on the extruder, which is not necessary. You can actually, if you wanted to, you could hand roll it. Coils are a really helpful tool to reinforce any kind of joint or transitional area. All right, I think this piece is going to be the butt. All right, so I'm getting the coil out. Okay. I'm going to attach the body together. I'm going to use some firm pressure, and I'm going to kind of like twist it a little bit, okay? I want the slip to be really well integrated, and I want to make that joint nice and strong. Okay, I'm going to see you in part 2 of this video. Yep.